Hello, everybody, and welcome to Episode 5 of the Halford Podcast. I'd like to welcome Brian Johnson again with us here tonight, and unfortunately Nick Crawford can't join us tonight, but we'll be duoing this for our first time, but welcome. It's Episode 5. We've got a few things to talk about, NASCAR and F1 related, not too much iRacing tonight, but a few things on the Motorsports window, and a trip maybe we have coming up this next weekend.
Man.
Yeah, some big stuff in the future. So, welcome to Episode 5 of the Halford and Podcast, guys. So let's get straight into this. So first, where were we at this weekend, Brian?
We are. What are you talking about? This past weekend or this upcoming?
Past weekend. This past weekend. Sorry about that. Yeah.
What, you think I don't know?
No, you know. I was just gonna let you.
Auto Club, California, Fontana.
Awesome. Yeah, we
a good flat track.
Yeah, a big flat track.
Big flat track, yeah.
But we had the Xfinity and Cup Series here this weekend, and so on Saturday we had the Xfinity race, which was a pretty interesting race. I'd say a little bit of the same we've seen from I guess you could say the favorite definitely won the race. I guess you could say the Cup driver who was the favorite won and dominated, but it's still I watched the race. Tires meant a lot, so it was a good race. But you have anything really big to say about the Cup race?
Well, no, I mean, tires did mean a lot because 42 had his hood blown up on his windshield.
Yeah,
because of the tire. I ain't never seen that before. A tire blow up the hood.
Yeah, the hood. It is very, it is weird, but it must have took out the hood pin area.
Yeah, it must have.
Yeah, that had to fail definitely for that to happen. That happened pretty early in the race, I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which makes kind of sense. It's earlier in the weekend. The track's pretty green. That's when the track's most abrasive. I don't know if he was running the high line. I don't think I never even saw that. That's what's funny because I watched the race, but I must have walked away during that part. But
so that's why you watched the review.
I knew, yeah, true. But I knew it was a pretty big deal because I saw in the highlights after the race was over. We showed John Hunter Nemechek's car. I was like, ooh. But tires
it was
definitely
funny.
Mattered, except for Joey Logano.
Oh yeah, but it was funny actually. Michael Waltrip was when he was talking about the high line, he was referring to the debris and all the rubber built up right up against the wall. He was referring to that as the cushion. I thought that was pretty cool because cushion is usually a dirt track thing, but he was using it just to kind of explain what that area is up there. And I think Christopher Bell had gotten up into it a couple times. And I really liked how on the restarts especially, you saw a lot of guys race on the apron. Like just the whole car on the apron. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's one thing I actually do enjoy about California. They have multiple lines. You see a lot of guys
running 8 lanes
right up against the wall, and 1 and 2 to 3 and 4. You see them down all the way against the apron. Like it's crazy, but
it's like 1, 2, 3, 4.
If there's grip there, those drivers will go find it. That's for sure. We've seen that.
Yeah, there's grip down there.
That's a quote from Byron Johnson.
There's grip down there.
And so, to end the Xfinity race, pretty plain and simple, Joey Logano would go on to win. His first Xfinity race win, I'm pretty sure, this season. Continuation of Cup dominance. I've seen a lot of people complaining about this. What's your opinions on Cup drivers driving the Xfinity, Brian?
I mean, you can't tell somebody that can't race. That's my thing. Okay, they got more experience. They've got, they tend to be the better driver, but you can't tell a driver, especially like the likes of like Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch, like they came up through that series, raced the trucks, raced Xfinity, and raced Cup, and if they want to stay with their Xfinity team, I think they should be allowed to. There shouldn't be any handicap, but I think it's pretty good the way it is. with them not being able to run for the Xfinity Championship if they're running for the Cup Championship. It's I think that's pretty fair. It does make it, and it actually makes the competition a lot better for the Xfinity drivers during the championship season, since they don't have all of these playoff points from the wins. I think it heightens the competition once you get into the playoffs.
It definitely does, in my opinion, too. I think this is a subject that's been almost beat to death, in my opinion, by
Yeah.
a lot of fans, because they're frustrated. I understand fans are frustrated that Cup drivers win all the time down there, but this is vital. These series need these drivers for sponsors.
Mm-hmm.
These cars aren't sponsoring drivers just, for them to go out there and learn. They want them to go out there and win races, so guess what? You got to put a Cup driver in there a few times a year. Sometimes to fund, your team. I mean, that's just plain and simple. I mean, a lot of Cup drivers, I think, use this as a learning tool, too, which I think more power to you. If you want to go out and race, go out and race. So
yeah, they're getting paid.
Yeah, I mean, and look, you ask some young drivers, I guarantee you, they're gonna want to have a Joe Logano down there to learn from, Kyle Busch to learn from. I mean, if you don't beat them down there, you ain't gonna beat them in the Cup Series. So I don't. You might as well you go and forget about beating them in the Cup Series if you ain't gonna beat them here. It's harder to win the Cup Series than it's Xfinity. So I just think it's something that a lot of people complain about that they probably shouldn't complain about. And, possibly even when I was younger, I felt maybe about that, because I get a little frustrated, oh, Kyle Busch is winning all the races. But I've come to that point, this is more than I guess, a winning sport. It's, there's a lot more things that matter about people being in the race than just racing, There's a lot that goes with the sport that you don't see behind it by just watching, It's a business, too, so it's got to flourish.
Mm-hmm. Well, and what a lot of people don't realize is that, a lot of these drivers out here, no matter what series it is that if they get a top 10, they are really, really happy. Jimmy Johnson, I think he finished 10th this past week. And I know he was super happy about that. So, finishing in the top 25% of the field when the field is as competitive as it is today, winning isn't, it's cliche to say winning isn't everything, but, winning isn't everything. A nice solid top 5 finish is great. A top 10 finish is great because, at the end of the year, it doesn't matter how many wins you have. You could have 18 wins and still go out in the first round in the playoffs. So, it's all about that championship.
That's a very true thing. So, as long as they're not, that's the thing I like about it. They're not affecting, the championship chase for those drivers. Then more power to them to go out and race. I mean, it's racing, so I enjoy it, and I think it's a good test for drivers. So, like I said, it's been beaten to death, so we'll stop beating it.
That's good. Yeah, horse got flies around it.
Yeah. We'll go into the Monster Energy Cup Series, and before we start with the Auto Club, we do want to go over a penalty from Phoenix. Do you have the exact details, Brian? For
exact
the penalty?
Details. From what I understand, it is a rear suspension issue. It was on Chase Elliott's car, number 9, Napa Chevrolet. It was very similar to Joey Logano's penalty last year when he won at Richmond, where there is I think it's a linkage and a bushing that has to stay in contact with each other, has to be completely flush.
We interrupt your video.
Chase Elliott's car, the rear suspension, that bushing was not flush with that linkage, and NASCAR says you can't do that. So they, I believe they docked him 25 driver points, 25 ownership points, and then his crew chief Alan Gustafson was fined $50,000, and his car chief was suspended for. Wait, did I say suspended for 50,000? I meant fined
Nah,
for 50,000.
fine for 50,000. Yeah.
Yeah, fined for 50,000. Car chief was suspended for 2 races.
Josh Kirk. Yeah, Josh Kirk was suspended.
Yeah, Josh Kirk. Yeah. So,
And I can see here now they did put in an appeal at first, but they have repealed. Like they took away that appeal, so the Hendrick is pretty much going ahead and decide they're just going to take the penalty and move on. So
from what I understand, when it was Joey Logano, you're talking about fractions of an inch. It was less than an inch. As far as I know, with Chase Elliott's, it was not that close.
so it's pretty far off.
It was more than an inch. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah,
kind of hard to appeal that one.
Yeah, definitely for sure. And do you think this takes away from his run at Phoenix a little bit?
Yes, actually. I mean, he is a good driver, and the number 9 Chevrolet has been one of the 2 highest running Chevrolets. You have the number 9 of Chase Elliott and then the 42 of Kyle Larson. They've been the 2 fastest Chevys. But when you have that linkage and that bushing not in contact, it makes the handling of the car in cornering a lot better. And in Phoenix, where it seemed like about 70% of the track is corner, I think that did give him quite a bit of an advantage. Would he still have finished in the top 10 if that was flush? Probably. But I think it's just out of desperation.
Yeah.
Kind of. They're just, Kevin Harvick, that he won that race. That was his 3rd in a row. Just, you hope you can try something to give you an unfair advantage to maybe win a race and hope NASCAR don't find out. But they got caught.
Totally agree with that. Yeah. I think it took away a little bit, maybe not too much, but it definitely gave them some more speed. So we'll maybe have to see at Martinsville next week how their short track program is there. So, which is
I hope it's
people. Great. Phoenix is a little bit higher speed, so you do have to worry about aerodynamics. Martinsville, it's a little less, so we'll see there. But so after we got through that penalty, we'll move on to the Cup race at Auto Club, where we had a lot of celebrities because this is like near Hollywood now. Mm-hmm. Had a lot of celebrities here. We had the Super Troopers. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. It's a pretty funny movie. They were
haven't.
Great grand marshals of the race. That's pretty cool. He also had the Migos, which is a huge hip hop group. We had some funny clips of Michael Waltrip trying to dab, unfortunately.
Oh, that was
the
not
biggest
even
cringe ever. Yeah, that was pretty cool. And then you had Offset in Bubba Wallace's car, and them chilling with Bubba Wallace and Austin Dillon. It's pretty cool. Being the cool, yeah. And then we also had Ice Cube, who made an appearance there. I think he had a picture with Jimmy Johnson, a few other guys and stuff. Yeah. So Ice Cube. There's some other celebrities too. But we'll pretty much start off the race. Martin Truex Jr. started on the pole. And really the first big thing that happened during this race was we had Kevin Harvick, of course, 3 times winning in a row this season already, starting in 10th place and driving all the way up to 3rd. And during our first, I think it was the first or second pit stop sequence of the race, like Kyle Larson and Harvick were racing pretty hard.
They were racing hard, man.
And it ended up with Kevin Harvick getting in big trouble and wrecking and getting a lot of damage. So a lot of people were asking, like, what happened here? And do you think this is... Now, Harvick did take blame. He said this is completely his fault. He was just trying to side draft. A lot of people are saying, maybe this is the old Harvick showing some aggression and showing Larson he didn't like how he got him loose there off of 2. And maybe he was racing him a little too hard and he just made a mistake and wrecked. So I just want to get your opinion on this situation here, Brian. Do you think this is the old Kevin Harvick showing up? By that I mean RCR Harvick, and or is this just a mistake?
I think it's a little both. I can't understand Kevin Harvick's frustration with Kyle Larson for racing him so hard so early. And I know if I was doing a race in iRacing, at Atlanta, or not Atlanta, at Auto Club especially, if somebody was racing me that hard with 200 or 100 plus laps to go, I would be pretty frustrated with him. Kyle Larson, they're just racing hard. I think it was kind of a product of hard racing and a little bit of Kevin Harvick. Kevin Harvick did not have to do what he did. He turned down into Kyle Larson. He says it was side drafting. You don't come down that hard when you want to side draft. To me, it looked like he intentionally wanted to give him a little, he wanted to train some paint right there, give him a couple donuts saying, hey, I don't appreciate you racing me like this right now. And just lost control of his car. But it was pretty funny listening to Kyle Larson's radio right after it happened. He's like, I raced him clean. All I did wrong was battle for the position. I hope he ain't mad at me. Like he was so scared that Kevin Harvick was gonna beat his ass or something. But then later, Kevin Harvick took the blame for it, and I think only Kevin Harvick knows what he was trying to do, whether he was trying to side draft or if he was trying to send a message. I think he was trying to send a message, and just the message got returned to the sender.
Yeah, I somewhat agree with that too. I think Harvick just made a mistake by trying to show Larson he wasn't a little too happy with that move and how he was racing there. And I think it kind of backfired on him, and he lost it. It's kind of bumpy, down there, and he was already loose. He was loose coming off the corner, so, I just think he made a big mistake there, and they did actually end up fixing the car. Right? They fixed it, but it could only rebound to a 35th place finish for that's next to last.
Rebound.
Yeah, they just did laps. They pretty much did laps. So no 4-peat for Harvick, unfortunately for him. But I still think he showed some good speed to get up to third place, and almost like I think Truex might have had a little tougher time.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Maybe, but we'll go with that. So pretty much with stage 1 ending, we would have pretty much a battle between pretty much all day too, with Martin Truex Jr. and Kyle Busch. Pretty good racing. They can make passes. I kind of like that. I mean, dirty air is still going to be a factor, but there's multiple lanes here, so you can choose to run a different lane than the guy ahead of you. It just gets harder the closer you get, of course, but we had Martin Truex Jr. win stage 1, and what's the quote, Brian?
Oh yeah, stage 1 win, or what is it? It's first stage win, MTJ.
Yeah, with his quote from his spotter, he always likes to do his stage wins. It's always really cool to hear
Counts
the radio.
The total for the entire year.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. So Truex Jr. took home was it his first stage of the year? I think so.
Yeah. Yep. That was his first stage win.
That's good for him. So he's returned back to that form. I think we had Kyle Busch finish in second in that one. I can't remember. So pretty much continue from there. It's pretty much still a battle between them most of the race. I mean,
yeah. If I could interject there, though, one thing that I did realize is that Jimmy Johnson finished 5th, I believe, in that segment, which that was his first playoff points. It was his first stage points for the season there. He didn't get any before.
That's pretty crazy. Like, he's the crazy thing is he didn't qualify, which we'll get into that later here in a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Get into that.
We'll get into that, guys. Don't worry about that one.
Yeah, y'all thought we forgot something. Oh, we didn't forget.
No, we didn't forget the qualifying, that's for sure. So Jimmy Johnson did not get the qualifying course, which we'll go into that in a little bit. Sorry for that. Damn it, Brian. You got me all messed up, man. I fucking lost my train of thought. You go ahead and talk.
Oh, because of my interjection? Well, yeah, so stage 1, first stage win, MTJ. Then what second stage? Nothing. I can't really remember anything memorable. uh, Other than second stage win, MTJ. Uh, yeah. Do you remember anything from stage 2 at all?
No, it was Martin Truex domination.
Yeah, his car handled so much better than anybody else's the whole entire day. And they kept up with the track too. That's I think Cole Pern, the crew chief for that 78 car, he really knows how to keep up with the track. He knows how to predict where the track is going to be at the end of that run, and so he just makes fantastic adjustments. Uh, so yeah, you had Martin Truex Jr. winning the second stage. The third stage begins, and again, nothing really happens. We haven't seen a whole lot of cautions, a whole lot of problems this year, which I guess is a pretty good thing. If you like racing, if you're the cliche NASCAR fan that likes wrecks, well, too bad, so sad. You know, they're not trying to wreck $2 million vehicles out there. But one of the highlights of the third stage was near the end of the stage at the final pit stop when Kyle Busch and Martin Truex were coming down pit lane. Martin Truex first, Kyle Busch second. Pit in similar pit boxes. I think Kyle Busch was a couple pit boxes behind him. And both fantastic pit stops. Kyle Busch gets out in front of Martin Truex Jr. And then his crew chief comes up on the radio and says, we went the wrong way on the adjustment. So the crewman that was in charge of adjusting his wedge, instead of turning it, I believe he was supposed to turn it clockwise, he turned it counterclockwise. They wanted to tighten up the race car because it was loose. Well, they ended up loosening up the race car. Crew chief tells Kyle Busch, hey, you need to adjust your track bar because we went the wrong way. And Kyle Busch was basically on ice skates out there. So he, obviously, Martin Truex Jr. passed him pretty easily. And then eventually Kyle Larson would pass Kyle Busch for second. So Kyle Busch coming home third. Martin Truex Jr. coming in first. And Kyle Larson in second. That's your top three. And yeah, so Kyle Busch makes the podium, but has some issues later that we'll go over after we get through with the results. Zach Hall.
So yeah, first place we had Martin Truex Jr. of course bringing home stage 1, stage 2, and bringing home the win, leading 125 laps. Pretty damn good day for Martin Truex Jr. Great finish. Kyle Larson second place. Kyle Busch bringing up a third place finish, leading 62 laps. The other car that really guy who can compete, I'd say, with Martin Truex today. Fourth, Brad Keselowski in second. The two-car Brad Keselowski in fourth. Pretty quiet day. Joey Logano led 9 laps. He got the lead during a caution segment, I think. And he had a little bit more loud day, I guess, than Brad. But Brad did get fourth, so I guess Brad can be happy with that. Denny Hamlin would come home 6th in the 11 car. Eric Jones would have a great finish at 7th to get his season going forward. Ryan Blaney would be home 8th in the 12 car. That would be a good finish for him because I know early in the race he was struggling. Also, we'd have Jimmy Johnson 9th. A great finish for him personally, even though he was a little bit quicker, I'd say, than that. But I'd say during the inter race, it kind of got away from him a little bit. But definitely 9th. That'll be good for Jimmy. He got some solid points in stage points, like you said. And Austin Dillon finished in 10th, round out the top 10. Pretty good finish for him also. Starting 5th in the race, so he stayed up there pretty much all day long. And notable stuff, Stuart Haas, in my opinion, didn't look that impressive. Because Clint Bowyer had to run 11th, Almirola 12th, Kurt Busch 14th, all pretty mediocre. Other than Jimmy Johnson, Hendrick run pretty mediocre. I mean, Byron was, I would say, the second best of the Hendrick cars, and he ended up finishing 15th, with Bowman 13th and Elliott 16th. So they didn't have great days either. With our other rookie driver, Darrell Wallace, finishing in 20th in the 43, which is not great, but I guess a solid day, you know. He could have finished worse, but pretty much just all over the place with some of these results. Kind of looking like last year with the way it finished with Martin Truex first, Kyle Larson second, Kyle Busch third. Those are pretty much the guys to beat last year, so looked pretty similar to last year, in my opinion, the results, how they were.
Yeah, I think that's what Kyle Busch said in a post-race conference, actually.
I actually didn't have a post-race press conference.
What?
Yeah, he did.
Or maybe that must have been on Twitter then.
Yeah, that might have been on Twitter, actually.
I remember him saying something about how like the top 5 looked like the top 5 from last year.
Yeah. Oh, well, I think he said that.
Or was that at Phoenix?
It was pre-race. Or it might have been post-race at Phoenix. Yeah. He was talking about
who the hell knows.
Yeah, but Kyle Busch did say that. I know that too. So that was pretty interesting. But pretty much that was the race. Points. I know Kevin Harvick still leads the points. So even though after a tough day he still leads, points really don't matter right now. Personally, we'll start going over those. Really, I think later in the season when it gets to the nitty gritty, he'll make the chase and stuff. So we'll just continue on to some of the topics that were at the racetrack too, but kind of the bigger ones from this race. And one of the biggest things, Brian, I know you know a little bit about this, and we're looking into this stuff. So I don't think you watched qualifying earlier on Friday.
No,
I did watch it, and
wasn't much to watch.
I only watched round 1 because I was waiting to see who got out there actually, and I believe only 22 cars. Let me check this. 22 cars, I believe, put a time in. Or 24, my bad. 24 cars put a time in. So we had notable names here who did not qualify, which they did not qualify because they didn't pass inspection and couldn't get through in time. But we had this has happened multiple times too, and usually at these bigger tracks, aerodynamic tracks, it's been happening. So we have Denny Hamlin, Clint Boyer, Eric Almirola, Alex Bowman, William Byron, Daniel Suarez, Chase Elliott, Jimmy Johnson, pretty much the most notable drivers there that did not get to qualify, with other drivers also, because they could not get through qualifying inspection before qualifying started. So what has NASCAR done to fix this problem that we've been seeing with qualifying, Brian?
So what they're going to do is, instead of having a pre-qualifying inspection, they're going to have a post-qualifying inspection, which is good. I think it's very good. I hadn't had a post-qualifying inspection, I think, since before the COT days, right?
I am not sure actually about that.
I know they had it in the first part of the 2000s.
I can't remember. I haven't really been up to date on my
entirely sure. I mean, I was 6
on
years
my
old.
inspection processes. You know, I kind of just let that happen. But lately, it's definitely. I mean, we've had to look into it now because it's huge now.
Yeah. So you're gonna have a post-qualifying inspection, in which if you pass, you keep your time. If you fail, you lose your time. Fair enough. And the other interesting thing here is that the post-qualifying inspection will also count as your pre-race inspection. We're still not quite sure how that's going to work. If you're going to have practice sessions in between qualifying and the race. I aren't too sure about that. But upcoming at Martinsville,
this is race they do it
where. Yeah, Martinsville is where they're going to have this change. This next coming week is when they're going to implement this. And in Martinsville, you practice and you qualify and you race. So there's no practice in between the qualifying and the race. So it's not a big deal. But we'll see what they do in a couple weeks. But I think it's a very smart move, especially after you have half the field not pass inspection to put out a qualifying time.
Yeah.
I think it's good to give the team at least, give them the opportunity to put out a fast lap and see where they stand between everybody else as far as just raw speed goes.
Yeah, it's just I mean, personally, it's not going to have an effect at Martinsville because the inspection is really a lot of lasers. That's just about the body and skew the cars and stuff. At Martinsville, you're not going to see a lot of that. The tolerances are way more because, I mean, it's just usually a mechanical grip track, but that's why we see it at Las Vegas, California, Atlanta. Tracks you really need the downforce for the car to get it working, so you won't see like short tracks have an effect, but this is a good change because I'm tired of watching qualifying with, oh, these guys didn't make it out because so many people failed. It's not it's almost not even the fault of the teams because NASCAR can't get them through in time because so many teams fail.
It takes too long.
Yeah. Now, if you go through 3 times and you fail, that's when they will actually suspend your car chief, or they'll kick him off the premises. Like Martin Truex is at Atlanta, I believe it was Atlanta or either Las Vegas. Either one of those.
Is one of those, yeah.
Yeah, they didn't get to qualify for that race because they failed 3 times. So it's pretty interesting stuff. But I like the changes. I think it's a good step forward, and that's some big news, I guess, for this upcoming week. But some bigger news that came out this previous week after we did our first podcast from last week, or our 4th podcast last week, Lowe's is leaving the 48 team in 2019.
What?
Yes. Jimmy Johnson will not be a Lowe's driver in 2019. What will Jimmy Johnson... what is going on?
Did you ever imagine Jimmy Johnson racing a car that didn't have Lowe's or Cobalt on it? That wasn't a special paint scheme?
No.
Yeah. Nobody saw this coming.
This is the biggest shock, I think, of all year so far. Of anything I've heard. Okay, my question for you, Brian, here is this a bad sign for Jimmy Johnson? Is this the down return for Jimmy Johnson? Is this the down return for Hendrick Motorsports?
No.
Is this a bad sign, or do you think this is a sign of maybe something new partnership that could even push them farther? Maybe it was time for Lowe's to leave. What do you think the situation was? Why do you think Lowe's is leaving the 48 team?
Well, from what I've heard and from what I've watched, it seems as though in the past couple of years, Lowe's as a company, as a business, has taken some steps to go in a different direction than they have been going for the past, decade, 10, 20 years. So I think it's just as a business, they want to evolve into something different. And so this is one of the things that they feel they need to drop to get that evolving process going and keep it going. I don't think it had anything to do with Jimmy Johnson's lackluster performance for the first 4 weeks of the season. I know a lot of people, it would make perfect sense. Jimmy Johnson doesn't get a top 10 in the first 3 races of the season. 3-4 races of the season, and then Lowe's be like, okay, well, your time's over, you're old, it's time for us to leave. But I think it's just Lowe's as a business just wants to head in a different direction, and from what I've heard Jimmy Johnson say, he still has 2, 3, 4 years left in him, so in NASCAR. And then he also says that after he does retire from NASCAR, he intends on racing some other vehicles that he's wanted to do sometime. He wants to do some fitness stuff, like triathlons and biking and stuff. So whatever sponsor he finds, I think he's going to want to find a sponsor, and a sponsor is going to want to find a guy like him where they can start out where he's been successful for this long amount of time, but as he goes and does these other things, he can take that sponsor with him.
Yeah, I definitely feel like that. I think the whole situation was, like you said, Lowe's is just go in a different direction. I think anybody who says it's the downturn of Jimmy Johnson I'm like, dude, he won the championship 2 years ago. So let's not forget this guy could do some crazy things in a race car. So just because
you don't have 7 of them for nothing.
I mean, if it just some of these people like, oh, it's the downturn of Jimmy Johnson. What about Martin Truex Jr. when he was in the 55, or was it the 55 he drove for Michael Waltrip?
Yeah, well, he started out at DEI,
yeah.
Then he went to Michael Waltrip, and then he went to
Furtero after that.
Furtero, yeah.
And ever since then, look, you just gotta be. You need the right pieces around you, and there's Hendrick is going through a changing phase right now with their 4 teams are coming together. They usually do a 2-team split on the shops, and now the shops will be combined. So they're going to a more conventional 4-team method. It's going to be some growing pains, but I'm interested to see what Jimmy Johnson has next in the future of sponsorship-wise. Like, what do you think? Do you have anything in mind? Like, what would you like to see Jimmy Johnson's sponsorship next year? What would you see as primary be?
The thing is, you're talking about you need a name on a car that is driven by Jimmy Johnson, that is put together by Chad Canals, which is owned and operated by Hendrick Motorsports. You got those 3 big names there. You're going to have a pretty thick checkbook.
Yeah.
So it's going to have to be a pretty big company. I think, just kind of as a, not quite as a joke, but if the Dollar Shave Club can afford him, I think that would be pretty good, because Jimmy Johnson can pull off a beard. And,
yeah, that's for sure.
And Dollar Shave Club, I mean, they'll sponsor just about anybody.
Hey, I'm a subscriber to Dollar Shave Club. I would love that.
Oh, nice. Maybe when Jimmy Johnson wins, if they're a sponsor and he wins, they'll send all their customers free or something.
Yeah, it's true. I've seen them sponsor, I think, a car in Xfinity Series, so that's interesting.
Oh, they have?
I can't remember who it was, so I'd have to look into that.
That's cool.
So you say Dollar Shave Club? Okay, I'm going to go out here on a limb and say next year, Jimmy Johnson will be sponsored by Pepsi Cola.
That's not, that's not...
That's not on a limb, but
too far out there.
Yeah, I think either that or Mountain Dew. Like some Pepsi company. I think it'll be like
Pepsi.
But I don't know. Also, Jimmy Johnson wants to be sponsored by a soda. I
That's
don't know
true.
If Jimmy
Because
Johnson
he's
would
a
be
fitness
into that,
guy.
because he's a fitness guy. So I can see them doing some throwing their fitness stuff. Maybe Pepsi doing a fitness drink with them or something. Yeah.
Well,
I don't know. Some. Dude,
wait, no.
All kinds.
I was just thinking. Vitamin water.
Yeah,
would be good, but vitamin water is owned by Coca-Cola.
Exactly, yeah, that can't happen. But there's a lot of things. I think some fitness stuff would be pretty cool. Maybe even a biking company. I don't know. I think Jimmy Johnson needs to be sponsored by something that he wants to do. So I think if he's passionate about it, why I think somebody will invest in it. And it's a good thing to invest in. That 48 car has been a pretty notable car in the history of NASCAR, huh?
Well, in recent years, yeah. But actually, I was just thinking, Lowe's was in NASCAR before Jimmy Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
They've been in NASCAR for a long time. So for them to, come out, and I mean, they had sponsored Charlotte Motor Speedway for a long time. So for them to just, and they backed out of that a few years ago. Now they backed out of this sponsorship, so they're just, they're leaving NASCAR altogether. Which just shows that their business is evolving.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see where they go, where we see their logos and stuff,
Branding,
what other sport they may or may not get into.
Definitely. Well, with us talking about that and logos and stuff, well, we've been having some interesting Twitter wars, and Kyle Busch defending himself on social media to a lot of fans, because after California this weekend, he finished third. There was no post-race interview and no post-race press conference appearance by Kyle Busch. A lot of people were saying that he was the cause of it. Now, it turns out Kyle Busch was waiting for this, and he actually got the all clear from a NASCAR, I guess one official or somebody from the media. He got the all clear not go to the press conference, and he was saying that he thinks that you should be mandatory for third place, or at least a third place finisher, to go to a post race press conference and give some type of interview. And he thought it was very, weird. And then he wasn't very happy that people were going on the internet and saying that he was just whining and a crybaby. That's why he didn't get it. So, what do you think about this, Brian? Do you think Kyle Busch is making something out of nothing, or is he right? Should NASCAR make more of an effort to get a word from someone who actually did good in the race instead of someone who finished, 35th in the race, maybe?
It's tough to say because even, and I'm kind of thinking back when Dale Jr. drove and he would finish 8th, 13th, 15th. It was kind of a toss-up whether they were going to interview him or not. Being the most popular driver, you would think if he finishes in the top 20, they're going to talk to him. But sometimes he would finish 6th, 7th, and they wouldn't talk to him. So I think it's kind of a thing where it depends on where Fox's, NBC's, whoever's media people is on pit road, where they are, and who is by them. I think that has a little bit to do with it. But as far as the third place guy not getting an interview, I think that's a problem because in so many other sports, you have podiums. And, when you're on a podium, you're in the top 3, you're in like the 1% of all your competition. And you deserve to have some media time and thank your sponsors, get that little bonus check at the end of the year for saying Interstate Batteries 20,000 times. First, second, third definitely gets an interview. Everybody else in the top 10, maybe get a couple other drivers, and maybe one driver that finishes in the top 20. But outside the top 20, I don't think those teams performed well enough, whether it was their fault or not. Just their finishing result should not, finishing that far back does not earn you the right to be on TV for an interview. I just don't think so. So what Kyle Busch did on Twitter, bashing all of his haters with some savage comments that I thoroughly enjoyed. It made me hate him a little less. So I think he didn't do anything wrong because it was not his choice to not have an interview, and people started attacking him, and he defended himself very well. I mean, I think Dale Jr. said something about it on Twitter, and he thoroughly enjoyed it. So I think it was good.
Yeah, I think that he definitely deserved the interview and stuff. So, I was looking through all this, and I had the idea, like, why does NASCAR not do something compared to, like, say, F1, where they have the actual media, like, delegated, like, area. Like, the F1 media doesn't go run out to the track right after they get out of the car and stick the microphone in their face.
God.
And, they give, like, the driver some time to breathe, assess the situation. I know NASCAR lives on emotion a lot of times, but you can still get those emotional moments, but you still got to understand also you got to get the guys who accomplish something in the race and get details on what they went through, because that's important. I mean, they deserve that. Their sponsors deserve that. It's just something I think NASCAR needs to really work on their media, how they how they run it. I mean, there's also things that F1 does wrong with how the fans can't get into certain situations that fans can get in the NASCAR. But they're also getting better over there, so we need to get better at stuff we don't do good. So I think sports can learn from each other with these simple ideas of looking at, yeah, I mean, you finish third in an F1 race, that's like winning almost, So
Yeah.
why NASCAR finishing third shouldn't be considered, a great accomplishment. I don't know why, but
Especially when there's twice as many cars.
exactly. So, I mean, it's just something I think that NASCAR maybe should look into, is something about these media obligations of TVs and stuff. So, which I understand it's Fox's right to do what they damn want to because they're putting their money on the line. So, but that's just me. So, I think they could learn from other sports. Do you think they could learn from F1 something like the pin like that? Maybe good work in NASCAR.
Yeah.
Not to like that stature because there's so many drivers in NASCAR, and not every driver like an F1 driver has a lot more stature in my opinion than I would say a mid-pack NASCAR driver.
Yeah.
Because
especially
there's only two at each team, and it's like each team has its own different car, and it's just different. Everything's different. NASCAR thing's kind of the same. So like maybe obligate like the top 20 drivers, And then if you ain't a top 20 driver and you're a top 10 point finisher and you finish out the top 20, you go in there too. Because you're an important driver and you're high enough in the points to where you're important enough, I don't know, some way to make sure we get, some word from these drivers. I mean, not every driver wants to talk. NASCAR drivers are weird. I mean, there's F1 drivers like Kimi Räikkönen who will completely blow these things off. And I mean, but they don't fine them for it. So I mean, it should be to the driver's discretion, in my opinion, if they, if they want to go to these things. So, but I think it'd be a good idea.
Yeah, and what I was actually just thinking about was that you look at the NFL and the NBA, but NFL especially, they may interview the quarterback right after the game, after a big game, but a lot of the times they don't interview the players until they're in the locker room. They got shirts off and everything. So I think maybe NASCAR should think about doing some of that, is just, let the drivers go back to the haulers, get out of their suits, and then let the media go in and get whoever they want to get. That's very much not like NASCAR at all, because they want the initial emotion coming right out of the race car, because that's what kind of got NASCAR the national stage that it does now.
Yeah.
I mean, the very first race that was televised, you had a big fight in it. So, you can't say that NASCAR isn't built on emotion, but, maybe look into something in between what they've got now, F1, and what the NFL has. Because, NFL, you have 53 guys on each team, and they only talk to 5 of them. So
that's true.
You got 40 drivers in a NASCAR field. You can talk to 5 of them.
Yeah.
So
I think that's a good idea. That's definitely a good idea for me too. I think they could merge from other sports ideas like that, but that's just like this is a thing that's been always drivers always go through with the media. So, but there's also some big news in the media this week. RCR revealed today, actually, this is today,
fresh
that
news.
the number 8 car will return to the Cup Series for 2 races this year, right? Is it 2?
Yeah, 2 races.
And it will be driven by Daniel Hemrick, which I like Daniel Hemrick, great young driver, but what do you think about the 8 car returning to the racetrack, Brian?
I'm so excited. Is it going to have the old font, and is it going to be red and sponsored by Budweiser?
No.
So what is it going to be sponsored by?
Smoky Mountain Herbal Snuff.
So classy. I mean, well, not that Budweiser is any more classy than that, but But I mean, come on.
It's a green car.
Really?
That's for sure. It's a green car. The 8
When
font, in my opinion, is
I think what they did for this paint scheme, and this is going to be a big blow. This is a pretty big insult. But what they did is they went on to iRacing and they put their logo in and then just hit like a random paint scheme that they could do. And this is, just right in iRacing, no trading paints, no nothing. Just right in iRacing said, okay, spin the wheel on the design and some random colors and we'll slap the sponsor on it. And not even change the number font. Like, the number font is exactly what the iRacing default font is.
Yeah,
it's so trash.
So the paint scheme, in my opinion, is not terrible. Because I do like
it does
green,
have the trees.
and I like the side of the car, how it looks and stuff. But the font...
that 8 just looks so...
Yeah, the 8 doesn't look right, but the one thing I am happy about is Daniel Hemrick getting a start in the Cup Series. You very promising young driver. Chevrolet needs some young drivers to come through and show some speed. And so it'll be interesting. This was kind of something I did not expect, but
I don't think anybody did.
I'm very excited, at least. I mean, that's cool. It's a great, always see a young driver come up into the series, And I think it'll be a lot of fans. I think it'll be a lot of fans happy, but I think there'll also be some fans that are mad because the 8 and that 3 are a sacred number.
H for Dale Earnhardt Jr. Nobody else.
Yeah, which then you get the hell over. But sometimes change happens, it's got to happen sometimes. But good stuff for Daniel Hemrick. So 8 car will be returned to the Cup Series. Anything else you want to really say about that, Brian?
I mean, when was the last time that like snuff or like chewing tobacco or anything was like a sponsor?
Well, Smoky Mountain Herbal Snuff has been it's been an RCR sponsor for at least in the Xfinity series for a while. They've had that on their car for a while.
Actually, but maybe I'm just ignorant. Maybe it's the snuff that tries to make you quit.
I have no clue what herbal snuff is. I know snuff is tobacco, right? Or chewing tobacco, so some type of chewing tobacco.
Holy cow, it's expensive.
What is it?
It's so it's a herbal smokeless tobacco. And a herbal smokeless tobacco is any product that imitates types of smokeless tobacco, but does not contain either tobacco or nicotine or tobacco while still retaining nicotine. They are often used as a tobacco cessation aid. Yeah, so it's to help people quit.
Okay.
So, a little better, but
definitely. Yeah, because I don't think you can advertise products, with that stuff. Like,
oh yeah, that's true. They had that whole tobacco law advertising thing.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, exactly. So, I think it has to be something like that. So, yeah, good to see the 8 car coming back, and good to see another Chevrolet on the track. But that was pretty much everything from this week, NASCAR wise. But so we'll move on to next week for NASCAR predictions, and our excitement is coming because my favorite racetrack is next week, Martinsville Speedway. Thank God, we're finally to the paperclip, and we have a special announcement that me and Brian will be both at the race. So we will have pictures, really good pictures.
Oh yeah, we're gonna take lots of
pictures. Going to the Q&A with Chase and Elliott. Chase and Elliott. Chase
Elliott and Bubba Wallace.
Bubba Wallace. So
Junior.
If anybody has a question that we can that you want us to ask, please post it in the comment section, and we'll definitely ask.
I don't have one yet.
Yeah, we're still thinking of what we're gonna ask him.
I don't know.
So we can ask him something for the podcast, of course. But
that'd be cool.
I can't wait for Martinsville, favorite track on this circuit.
Give me some hot dogs.
I'm excited because we're going. I've been there probably the last 4 or 5 times in a row now. This is a track I go to the most often. It's just an awesome racetrack. Sitting in a different spot we usually sit, always it's gonna be different. So, are you really excited, Brian? This will be your second time, I think, right?
What do you think? Of course, I'm excited. Oh my god, I'm not excited about waking up at like 3 o'clock in the morning though.
Yeah. Oh, and
Um,
we'll talk about the F1 race like after this, but I'll tell you what time it is later. But,
yeah, because we got to. It's funny because the F1 race will be taking place as we ride up to Martinsville.
No.
Oh, it's not.
No, it'll be 4.
Before. Okay.
Yeah, I'll tell you later. I'll go over the times and stuff later when we go into the podcast. But I think it starts like 1 in the morning. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yep, exactly.
But yeah, so Martinsville is super stoked. Gonna drink some beer and eat some hot dogs.
Eat some hot dogs. That's
and
right.
Watch some racing. Watch Chase Elliott dump Denny Hamlin.
Right? that actually leads into my first question here. We see a lot of raw emotion last time with the 24 and 11 ending the race the way it did.
Oh, man.
Will we see something similar, you think, this weekend, Brian? Or will we see a retaliation between them two? Or do we see them two get back together? Do we see different drivers? What do you think?
Well, I've got 2 or 3 things here. Well, Chase Elliott already had his retaliation at Phoenix last year. So I think they're even. As far as I'm concerned, I'm sure one of them feels like they still owe the other one something. But I think it'll be interesting to see how Martinsville, Virginia reacts to Denny Hamlin coming back, since Virginia is where Denny Hamlin grew up. And it was so crazy, like, being there and Denny Hamlin dumping Chase, and then afterwards with the interviews, and this is Denny Hamlin's home track other than Richmond, really, and just the whole crowd is just booing him, and it's his home crowd. Like, that was pretty interesting.
It was very, very interesting moment.
Everybody's yelling for Chase, like, yeah. Boo.
Denny Hamlin,
boo. It was great.
He was the people's champ. That's what they said. That's what they said in Texas. He's the people's champ, man. It was crazy. Yeah, it was a very wild scene to see there. It definitely was an awesome moment in racing.
But then you had something happen with Kevin Harvick and somebody else, right?
Harvick and Blaney got into it.
Yeah.
A little punch back and forth, a little, not even a punch, really, just like a, little bump.
It was a solid, see you later.
Yeah, see you later, man. I think the Chase Elliott Denny Hamlin thing ain't over, personally.
I don't think so.
I think Chase Elliott, if Denny Hamlin's in front of Chase Elliott, Chase Elliott is destroying him at the end of the race. I'm guaranteeing that. What he did to him at Phoenix, Chase Elliott didn't wreck him, but he didn't cut him no slack either.
Wait, well, yeah, he cut his tire. Didn't cut any slack, cut his tire.
Yeah, but he didn't personally stake his muffler out there and cut his tire. Like, he ain't that good. All right, drivers are good, but they ain't that good. But I still think there's some animosity there, of course. But I don't think he'll wreck them unless it's for the win. But I still think we're gonna see some tempers flare somewhere deep down in this race.
Yeah. Something's gonna happen.
Something's gonna happen.
And that's why we go.
We're gonna have some storylines, that's for sure, for next week. So, who's gonna win this weekend, Brian?
Oh, hell.
You better not take my pick.
Well, I know I'm going to take your pick. It's going to be Chase Elliott.
And why do you think Chase Elliott is going to win this weekend, sir?
Man, because he's got something to prove at this track. He had it won last time, and he didn't win it. I think with it being a short track, Phoenix, he did well. He had the penalty. But Phoenix, not as much as an aero track as where we've been to before, performed his best. Martinsville, definitely not an aero track at all.
At all, yeah.
Him and Kyle Larson been the top running Chevys. Chase Elliott, exceptionally good at Martinsville. If he can get around Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, possibly, then I think he stands a strong chance, and I'm really excited to see what Bubba Wallace Jr. can do.
That's very true, too. But we need to watch Bubba. He's good at Martinsville. All right, I'll make my pick right now since I'm not gonna pick the same thing as you. Let you know you did.
Was
take
that
my
your pick though?
You did take my pick.
Oh yeah.
But
Sorry.
I'm not gonna pick the same driver, so I'm gonna go with the same driver I picked in California, who had a good run this past week in California, Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson will win Martinsville this week.
Keep dreaming.
If Chase Elliott doesn't.
Keep dreaming.
Yeah, I'll pick Jimmy to go win it. This would be a perfect place for him to get back on a roll. I can see Jimmy Johnson definitely winning this race, so I'll pick him. And hope I'm right. I hope I'm wrong, actually, but you know what I mean, guys. You know what I mean. Duh. So,
if it's not the 20, if it's not the 9,
if it's not the 9, it better be the
48.
48. So
It'll probably be the 11
it'll probably be the 11. I'll have to,
or the 18.
find Denny Hamlin after the race. Be like, you little short motherfucker. But
we when we were walking to the car after that race, we actually saw Joey Logano drive by on a golf cart.
yeah, we can
Like,
actually
some-
the way our seats will be now, we'll be able to see a lot more because
Oh yeah.
we can go right to the edge in the corner. I'll show you when we get there, but I'll get a lot of pictures too, guys, from Victory Lane. We're going
'cause
on
we're
the
gonna be right
track.
there.
We're going on the track too before the race, so we'll be on pit road and all that. So cool stuff with that. So Martinsville, real excited this weekend. I personally, this weekend can't get here soon enough. It's going to snow in the morning. I think before we get there, on the way up there, it's going to probably be snowing, but
Qualifying's gonna get snowed out.
So
Get the snow dryers out there.
get the snow dryers and get the snowmobiles. Get some
Yeah,
chains on our tires out there and go snowmobile riding. I was
We'll
making
have to
any
have
accent,
Cedric
guys.
what to
Sorry.
do.
Yeah. Well, ask Cedric what to do, our Canadian analyst. That was funny, but let's go into our next subject for this week, F1, because they also will be in Melbourne, Australia, while we're going to Martinsville this weekend, but we'll be paying attention to that very seriously.
Holy cow!
What?
What was that? I saw a big flash come from outside. I guess it's storming.
It is storming. Yeah, okay. I thought you were
That
talking
was
about-
crazy.
You scared me kind of. I was like, oh, what'd I do? But yeah, it's storming. We got some storms rolling in around here in North Carolina. But,
See, this is what happens when you mention Denny Hamlin.
yeah, right? So, first topic in F1 this week is article on Autosport. And it pretty much is talking about how Hamilton is impressed by Haas Racing because they've shown some very strong pace at the end of that test this a week or two ago. So
It was a couple weeks ago, yeah.
they just to put this in perspective here, I got some times. So Ferrari
you got
ran.
that table up there?
Yeah, well, no, I couldn't get the table. I couldn't find one anywhere, but I have the times at least. I can tell everybody.
Yeah, 'cause it's very interesting.
Yeah. So, top of the timesheets to end testing, we had Ferrari at a 1 minute 17.182 on the Hypersoft tire, which is the softest tire, which is a new tire Pirelli has brought this year, which is meant to break track records. So, and that's already under the track record, so we'll definitely see some way faster laps at Spain when they come back. But what Hamilton was so impressed by is you had the Haas at a 118.36 on the Super Soft, which is 2 tires harder than the Hypersoft, which is supposedly about 1 to 0.3 seconds quicker than the Super Soft. So if you look at that, Haas has a faster lap than Ferrari, plus the run that they did it on was 4 more laps of running on that stint, so that means they might have had more fuel. So looking at that, a lot of teams are looking into that and saying Haas looks pretty impressive for a supposable mid-pack team that they are. So some people were saying they may show up to Australia and be the 6th best, 6th and 7th place car behind, my bad, 7th and 8th place car behind, the first 3, of course, teams. So it's pretty interesting. Hamilton described it. He said the Haas is a very, very fast car. He said, I think you're going to see the Haas up there this year. So if Hamilton thinks that, in my opinion, Haas has something to look forward to, because I think Hamilton knows what he's looking for when he sees a fast car, and I think he sees a fast car on the racetrack. So,
Yeah.
do you think that bodes well for Haas? You think these times and running on the super softs, showing the pace they've had? Do you think? Okay, so we do have to take this with a grain of salt. Everybody needs to understand that Formula One testing, a lot of these teams are sandbagging the hell out of it. Like Mercedes is, I think they were seventh fastest.
They're
Mercedes,
not,
if they wanted to show the fastest time, they would have been the fastest car. Okay, so let's take that in the fact, but I still think this has some really good merit to it. It also shows that Red Bull looks really quick because they did some really long runs on some fast laps with long runs. So teams are really, it's looking like a three-way fight, and that pretty much leads into the next subject. But you got anything to say about Haas, Brian? Do you think they'll have a good year from what we're seeing?
Well, there's three things that come to my mind when I hear this. And that one, it's a fluke. I don't think it is, but could be. The second thing is that I know sometimes teams will kind of focus on one tire compound and make their car fast on that one compound, because they are, they do handle a bit different. So maybe they were just focusing on that one compound and saying, okay, we want to figure out how we can make our car, best on this compound because we're going to use this a lot this season. Or, the third thing is that they may be sandbagging as well.
Sure.
Because, their car is very, 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 very similar to last year's Ferrari car. So it's got some speed in it.
That's for sure.
So they may have been sandbagging themselves, just not as much as Mercedes or any of the other teams. But it bodes very well for Haas racing. I think it's going to be very exciting. I think they will get at least one podium this year. They'll be up there sometime.
That would be amazing for that team. So I'm looking at the results. The first year was 2016, of course. They had 29 points, which I think that's the record for the most for a new team to ever have.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They also had the most points scored for a team. Best finish for a first-time team too, with 6th place being their first race. So,
wow.
Haas has overperformed, at times. And they usually do come out the gates pretty fast. But their first season, they scored 29 points, finishing 8th in the World Championship. Constructors Championship, by the way. Which was, I think, there was 10 that year. I think that year there was 10, and then there might have been 11 that year, maybe. And then there's 10 now. Because the last year they scored 47, so they did step up their points from the year, but they still finished 8th. But this year, do you see them taking a step up in the field, or they have shown times to come out really hot and then slow down through the rest of the season, so maybe that's it. But like you said, this is a very similar car to the Ferrari, and I think it's going to perform similar to the Ferrari. So I think they're going to be like a 5th place team this year, a 5th or 6th place team, right? Or they'll be fighting Renault and McLaren, I think, right there behind Red Bull and Ferrari and them and Mercedes. But
yeah, I think that's a good bet.
Yeah, that's definitely, in my opinion, how I think it's going to play out. So that leads on to our next subject, which, of course, is another article from Formula. This article is from the BBC. My bad. I like to give out, the credit where credit is due. In this article, pretty much, Mercedes chief Toto Wolff has pretty much said he predicts it's going to be a 3-way fight the whole year. He says that our drivers seem reasonably happy with the car, but it remains to be seen how well it performs compared to other cars. He also says they haven't pushed the car to be driven in anger, which I think he means by that, which he means like to that full 100%, 105%.
Yeah, 100.
It past its limits. And he said also the reduction in the number of power units components means that reliability will play a really important role this year, which they'll only have 3 components of each engine this year, like 3 to get through the whole season, which is really, really crazy. And he said the reliability looked good for Mercedes, but other teams looked also good too. So he said he thinks this year will pretty much be a 3-way battle between Mercedes, Red Bull, and Ferrari up front. He says that he says he plans to have a real strong fight on their hands at Mercedes, and you don't expect it to be a cakewalk, pretty much. What do you think, Brian?
Well, I actually have a question for you, and that is, do you think he actually means that, or is he just saying that to kind of confuse the other 2 teams, Ferrari and Red Bull? Is he trying to give them the sense that maybe they actually do have the chance and Mercedes is just going to come out and just stomp on them?
I think he doesn't know. I think that's where he's standing. I think he doesn't want to say that they're good or bad compared to any team because he doesn't know. Like, literally, I think a lot of these teams are everyone plays so much trickery with each other that, you never know till that first qualifying session at Melbourne who's got that real pace. That session, I'm telling you, Q3 in Melbourne on Saturday, we'll watch it together. That will be the most important qualifying session. Or actually, that'll be on Friday, my bad, because it's at nighttime for us. So, but
yeah,
yeah. So but still, that will be the session that shows us what team is the strongest, what team is the fastest. Which Australia, like I said, different track, kind of street circuity, kind of a lot of turns, so high downforce. You need a lot of downforce here. Not exactly representative of it, because Ferrari, I think, have won the last 2 years here. I know for a fact they won last year with Lewis Hamilton finishing second to Sebastian Vettel, and Valtteri Bottas finishing third with Kimi Räikkönen in fourth. So we had the split of the Ferrari cars, the 2 Mercedes cars in the middle, with Max Verstappen bringing home fifth also. But I also got to take into account Daniel Ricciardo. This is his home track where he got a DNF last year. I could see him maybe performing well too, so I'm interested in this weekend. This weekend is going to be very important to see the pecking order in F1. So, like I said, I think Toto Wolff mostly is hoping that it's a 3-way fight, not a 1-way fight with Ferrari winning. Fight. Yeah,
or a 1-way fight with Ferrari winning. Yeah, is Mercedes, is their wheelbase as long as it was last year? Do you know?
It's the same. Ferrari increased their wheelbase, though.
Okay. All right. Because I feel like that's what kind of gave Ferrari. That's what gave Ferrari the advantage.
At Australia, tracks like that, it did. Yeah.
So
Red Bull might take that advantage now, though.
Yeah, especially with those skinny side pods.
We'll see. I think Red Bull might be the team to beat personally. So
I certainly hope so.
I think okay. So like I said, this weekend will be super important. So we have the 2018 Formula One Australian Grand Prix. For Americans, it will be on ESPN2 at I had it. It will. I know it will start.
Are we like 18 hours behind or something like that?
Let me look it up, guys. 2018.
See, this is the good thing about NASCAR is that there's only 3 time zones you have to deal with.
Exactly.
With F1, you gotta figure out, okay, what side of the world are they on?
So Sunday, March 25th at 1:10 a.m. It will air on ESPN2. So
get your coffee.
The race will end about, I'd say, like 3 in the morning. About really about 2:30, 2:45. So pretty late, but we're on to the Australian Grand Prix, and
the Australian Grand Prix.
Who's gonna win, Brian?
Oh, Daniel Ricciardo. I'm just gonna say that every week. Is that okay? No, I think I mean I really don't know because I don't have a lot of experience with this F1 deal. But I think top three teams, I think it's pretty obvious. But one of the drivers from either Mercedes, Ferrari, or Red Bull is going to win. Oh, what's up, Genesis?
So you picked, what did you end up picking? My bad, I had to let my dog in, guys. Sorry about that.
It's either a Mercedes, Ferrari, or Red Bull driver.
Yeah,
But,
I mean,
I want it to be Daniel Ricciardo.
Okay, so you're picking Daniel Ricciardo to win?
Sure, I'll pick him. I'm gonna pick him every week.
You're gonna pick him every week. Okay, so we know
Every
Brian's
week,
pick
yeah.
for next week. For the next race, I mean. I'm gonna pick Valtteri Bottas is gonna win the opening Grand Prix. That's so like on a limb right there, because that's saying he beats Lewis Hamilton here. So
I thought you were at least gonna say Vettel.
I wanted to, but I didn't want to pick a guy who is probably the favorite to win it. So it's so hard to say because we haven't seen practice yet. But
Yeah,
I'll say
everything's so
Bottas. I'll just
this
say
year.
something that nobody's probably gonna say. Bottas. So Valtteri Bottas is gonna win the Australian Grand Prix, and I think they paved it. I'm not sure if they did.
Oh, we got to repave.
If it is repaved, Bottas is good on repaves. I know that. So, but other than that, I mean, F1's coming back. We just had a good NASCAR race. We're going to a NASCAR race this weekend. The podcast tonight was pretty fun. Anything you want to add tonight, Brian?
I just want to, if anybody was hoping for iRacing, we kind of skipped over that this week because not a lot has happened. There's been a couple of hot fixes that came out, but it's really there wasn't anything big in there. Early in the in season 2, there really just hasn't been a whole lot. Just on the pure iRacing official series side, I mean, there's been tons of leagues. I've seen so many leagues like the past month. Just I don't know where they came from, but I've just seen so many leagues and so many different races, and it's pretty cool to see, what people are into out there. Like you got the GT series stuff, and the new LMP1s. I'm excited to start learning more about those. So, yeah, hopefully we can cover some iRacing stuff next week. But if not, I mean, we'll definitely have a lot of stuff from the race.
Oh yeah, we'll have 2 races to talk about next week.
We'll be here damn near 6 hours talking about that race.
Yeah, knowing us. But thanks for everybody who tuned in tonight. I want to thank Brian. Thanks for coming out here, being again with us every night. We also shout out to Nick, our host.
Hi,
hope
Nick.
you're having a good night, Nick. Anybody out there listening, hope you all have a good night. Anybody watching later, like, comment, subscribe. Check out the YouTube page. Check out the Twitter at the HF&S Podcast. And everybody have a great, wonderful night. And
check the Facebook page. You're on the YouTube page.
Yeah, true. Actually, check the Facebook page. Yes. Later, guys.
Later.